Yeah, well, I guess where my hockey started, I started relatively late. I didn't start till the age of 13 in Grafton on the north coast of New South Wales. Small town. I just had a passion for sport, played many sports growing up, and I was at that stage I was still quite successful in playing representative soccer, and up to the age of 15 I was representing New South Wales with soccer, and at the same time juggling hockey when I started. And my family was playing, my father was playing, he'd been playing for a lot of years, and I can remember every Saturday afternoon going down to the hockey field after soccer and hitting the hockey ball around and just watching my dad play in Grafton on the grass back then. And I guess the players that I grew up with, the friends, everything like that, the family, I had an opportunity to play. Started at the age of 13 and just loved it. And at the age of 15, I actually had to make a decision whether or not I'd stick with soccer or hockey. And at the end of the day, I chose hockey. Look, I think without a doubt, I think just the motor skills, the coordination, and everything you develop from playing all sports, and ball sports. The team environment that you grow up with, the people that brought me through the soccer environment, really gave me a good. It's interesting. I remember my first talent camp for hockey. I made the possible probables team, and I was actually didn't get selected for the state team because I was playing a team game. I was passing too much. I didn't show individual skill. So that was my first opportunity at the age of 13 at the first talent camp that I went to. And my background from soccer in playing a passing game, the 1-2, get and give and support and knowing what you're going to do off the ball and leading, I thought I got a really good grounding from the sport, and it does provide that. And I think even just recently, I've done a number of sessions with Wellesley, probably even 12 months ago, the QAS coach, and he brought the ball back into the training and the warm-up, basically to get an understanding on second phase, the 3D skills, the aerial ball and things like that. So I guess subconsciously I wasn't training for hockey, but it did put a good grounding and can transfer a lot of skills from it. Well, I think that the defining moment for me when I had to make that decision was that my parents, who were very, very supportive of what I'd done, took me everywhere, travelled everywhere with me, and it come to school holidays, and every time the state championships or training camps for both sports, when I was with New South Wales, I actually nearly clashed, and we'd be going from one side of the state to the other within 24 hours just to make the other training sessions, and I had to make that decision. And the decision was that I really felt that I could go a lot further with hockey and represent hockey at that higher level. And at the age of 15, I never expected that I would leave the country area. And if I was to go further with soccer at the time, I'd have to relocate at the age of 15 to Sydney and train under the guidance and the support of the coaches. Whereas 90 or 95% of hockey players are from a country area. Even with the national team now, I think majority of the players come from the country originally. So that was the decision that at the age of 15, before the national championships, I had to make that decision. All right, we're going to give hockey a crack and give it a real good shot. And it probably wasn't until the age of 18 when I finished school and relocated to Sydney, which I wasn't going to do when I was 15, that I relocated to Sydney to pursue the passion and the dream to play hockey. That was when I really was exposed to the institute programs, New South Wales Institute of Sport, and the academy sort of model. That's when I really took that next step forward. With the relocation post HSC in Year 12, I moved to Sydney and got involved in the institute programs. And I was fortunate, that was back in '94. And within 12 months, I was fortunate to be in the New South Wales Institute of Sport and the National League, New South Wales Waratahs in the National Hockey League. An opportunity which provided me with the exposure and the experience to play against the best players in Australia. And it was a great stepping stone for me. And it was 2 years later, 1996 Olympics come about. I still was just growing into the sport. I didn't know who was playing, didn't have a lot of exposure with the sport on the superstars of the game. And I remember returning there in 96. We played the under 21 national championships up in Brisbane. I was selected to be part of the Junior World Cup team, and I ended up being the captain of the Junior World Cup team, which won its first gold medal in 1997 in Milton Keynes. And that was my first real exposure to any national team and the national team players or national squad, the Kookaburras. In 1996, I spent some small stints at the AIS in Perth, the hockey program. And from there, I guess in 1997, I got my first opportunity to go to a national team camp, just as a invited guest from the junior program. Myself and Dean Butler, other Queenslander, we were invited there with Baden Choppy, who already went to the 96 Olympics. The three of us from the junior program had an opportunity to come to Terry Walsh's first camp with the national team, and which was in Sydney. And I took up that opportunity, went to the camp, done a lot of testing, tested well, and played well. And Terry actually exposed me to the team, and I got my first opportunity in selection with the Kookaburras. And in February that year, 97 February, I went to play my first international tournament with the Kookaburras, which was the 50th Golden Jubilee tournament in Karachi, Pakistan. So I guess the journey was quite quick. I made the national team before going to the AIS, so a little bit backwards to some other majority of people. And for me, therefore, I think that whole process was quite daunting. I become overawed, I become nervous, I become anxious in the way that I played the game. And I guess really didn't feel part of the team until 10 or 20 internationals. And it sometimes does take a long time to feel comfortable within that team environment. And you had a little bit of doubt. Through 97, I guess we had the Junior World Cup, so we weren't part of that national squad for a long period for that year until the 1997 Champions Trophy, and that was my first major tournament against the superpowers of world hockey, and that was here in Adelaide, in Australia as well. So that was where the stepping stones went, and from that moment, that was when I relocated to Perth to the Australian Institute of Sport, and focus was then on the 2000 Sydney Olympics. Well, the Sydney Olympics was an amazing opportunity. It was a dream come true. I always remember growing up looking at and watching the Olympic Games, the highlights, and one day I would always had the passion that I wanted to go to the Olympic Games. I didn't know I was going to be for hockey or for what sport, but I remember Carl Lewis, even the highlight reels of Jesse Owens. You see those superstars. The decathlon, all those sports and the glitz and glamour that goes with it. I just enjoyed watching that, and that was probably an inspiration for me to go and be more successful as an Olympic athlete. And I remember going into the village and moving into the village and being presented with that Olympic jersey by Terry Walsh. And the selection of the team was one step, but actually receiving that Olympic jersey, the Kookaburras in the village, it just was amazing. Just it brought shivers down, even now as I talk, it brings shivers down my spine. To be there, to be playing in front of your family, your friends, the Australian supporters, and an opportunity for the Kookaburras to really stamp. They've always finished in the top four, never in Olympic Games being outside that top four. Generally around second and third, but never actually won that Olympic gold medal. And what better place to do that in Sydney in 2000? So it was a daunting opportunity, but it was something that was amazing. And I also remember the opening ceremony. The opening ceremony was something that will remain with me for a lifetime. Is the whole Australian team going into the Sydney Olympic Park and marching in front of 110,000 people to capacity. And as the Australian team, we entered last because of our home Olympics, and the crowd just erupting. And I remember adrenaline just took over, and every other team walked in a formal manner around the athletics track, and Australia come in there all with our kangaroos and things that we were going to share with the crowd, and adrenaline took over and we went crazy. We were climbing up on fences, throwing things into the crowd, and I still remember that, and it's amazing. The whole Olympic experience in Sydney had been very successful, living the dream, something that was sort of surreal and out-of-body experience, something that I never thought would be possible. And the Kookaburras have been very successful, undefeated through all the round games, and we were coming up against some arch rivals in Holland in the semi-final, which was a crossover semi-final. And I remember the match. It was a very tight ding-dong battle. Everybody just playing very cautious, just passing stick to stick, no one taking any risk. And I only think there was one penalty corner per team for the whole match. It was 0-0 at the end of regular time, 0-0 at the end of extra time, and then it went into golden goal, 0-0 at that, and then went into penalty strokes. And I was confident I was always one that would be stepping up to take a penalty stroke, and I'd done a lot of practice, training, and I would hit the money, 9.5 times out of 10, 10 out of 10 times. So I was confident. I remember sitting down there in front of, I think the capacity was around 15,000 at the hockey centre. Silence had gone across the crowd. I stepped up to take my stroke. But before I'd done that, I remember sitting down, relaxed, very calm. I went through a visualisation process that I'd practiced and rehearsed. And I stepped up to execute the skill, and the flick went really well. And it was going into the corner, but the Dutch goalkeeper, Jansen, who had been very experienced, he dived to his right, made the save, and deflected the ball outside the goal. And it was one of those things that, I remember just falling to my knees, and I just felt nauseated. I felt quite ill, and I just wanted to go into the darkest, deepest hole to get away, and I couldn't escape it. And it's something now it's sort of hard to talk about. And unfortunately, the Kookaburras, we bowed out of the Olympic gold medal race. And from then on, I realised the importance on having a strong support from teammates, strong support from coaching and management, and also the family around you, because 48 hours later, we had to fight for a bronze medal against Pakistan, and that match, so I had to get away. I remember spending a lot of time with my family over the next 12 hours. I had coaches, I had people coming up and supporting me, saying it's happened to me, this, that and the other. And I remember it clicked, and one of my teammates, Stephen Davies, also mentioned to me, he said, a bronze medal is much better than fourth place. And I share that with all my teams and all my people I coach, that you've now just got to bounce back. And I spent 12 hours away with the family and just going over things. And we come out and we defeated Pakistan 6-2 in the bronze medal match, and we won a bronze medal at the Sydney Olympics. And I wasn't satisfied with that. Obviously, heart-wrenched, disappointed. And just to get a bronze medal, it's a great achievement. But I wanted to go a lot better. It was devastating. It was crushing. But what I did realise, and through the support that I had from the coaches, Terry and also even the Dutch coach, come up to me and spoke to me about things, and I remember that it doesn't matter what you do in training, no training or no experience can emulate what the pressure of an Olympic Games could provide. And I don't know how many times I practiced that skill and how many times I got it in and scored in the past. There's always somebody that would be there to one day be better than you, and that save is a fantastic save. But what that did make me do, it gave me that burning desire and that hunger to go one better or two better in Athens in 2004. So what I would do is I always make sure that I would commit myself to searching for something that would give me the edge always. Make sure you set the standards and the bar really high. Make sure that I would go out and in every training session I'd be developing and learning something, and make sure that when I go out there that I would try to visualise different scenarios as well. So that probably gave me that hunger and the desire to take it to the next level for the next 4 years. Straight after the Olympics, I'd already had a contract to go play in my first season in the Dutch league. So a bit ironic. I went straight to Holland probably a month or two after the Olympic Games and slapped in the face again by media, and people wanted to talk about that scenario. So it's always going to be there, and I realised that. And not only the disappointment for me and how it affected missing out on that opportunity, but the players, the legends of the game, Michael York, Damien Deletti, Jay Stacey, Stephen Davies, everybody was there. It was their hay song where they were going to actually win that gold medal in Sydney. They'd been to 3 or 4 Olympics, been very successful on the world stage. So you've sort of absorbed it and haven't sort of let down the team, but you had a lot of things riding on it. And I guess the way that I now approach not only that and everything in life is making sure that you become innovative. You look at new ideas, new strategies. You become a leader, and you have high expectations of yourself and people around you. And then I guess for next 2 years with the Kookaburras, our strong focus was making sure we were the best team in the world, not only at the Olympic Games, before and after. So the bar was raised again. We would take all the athletes on a journey where we all looked for something to make sure we were better. So we got the highest fitness scores. We were the strongest team we ever done. We were doing extra training sessions. We were looking for personal development. And in the past, the difference between the 4 years between the first Olympiad and the second Olympiad, if you're looking to do extra work or training harder or doing little things yourself personally to benefit the team, that was possibly frowned upon in the first Olympiad, where I couldn't understand. But in the second Olympiad, we embraced it and we asked everybody to do more and challenged them to do a lot more. And then we just continually raised the bar. So we went to a stage where we're going through different phases, not worrying about what tournament we were in, but our main focus were the major tournaments to make sure that we got the success we're after. And we created where people and other opposition teams thought, well, how can they ever, even if we were 2-0 down, 3-0 down, how can you beat Australia? Because we would come back and we would overpower them. So 2004, we created a lot of depth within the squad, and we had probably 30 players that could have went to the Athens Olympics. So gaining selection into the Australian Kookaburras team was very difficult, purely because of the standards that we set, and the program that the Institute program put together and Hockey Australia we put a program in place to make sure that we had the best players, not only for the team, but in every position and also in the squad. Well, it was interesting. The team 4 years later that went to Athens was a lot different to the Sydney team. From the Sydney team, Matthew Wells, Troy Elder, and myself were part of that, along with the journey over probably the build-up for 2 years going towards Athens. There were a lot of other senior players like Lachlan Dreyer, Matthew Smith, and players that still continued on with the Kookaburras. But that experience from Sydney, we then went through a new phase with Barry Dancer, very clinical, very methodical in what he'd done. He would leave no stone unturned, whereas Terry Walsh was a very innovative, very attacking, flary type of player, which which was fantastic for the kookaburras and what we were looking at. But what we had to do actually was step outside the box, step outside where we were as a team, and look at what other teams around the world were doing. And the first part of that was in the World Cup in 2002 in Kuala Lumpur, where we thought, well, we'd gone along really well and performed well, but then Germany defeated us in the final 2-1. And I remember through 2001, 2002, we raised the bar enormously with our training ethic, our fitness levels, our strength, everything we done. We raised the bar, but we just didn't, again, get it. So we looked at what Germany were doing, what they thought we would be doing. That Olympic gold medal match, we started off on fire and probably dominated the match in the first half. But again, that goalkeeper, the Dutch goalkeeper, was standing in the road, and a number of shots had gone wide, hit the post, made some fantastic saves. And then on the rebound, which Holland do, they scored one against the run of play and went into the half-time 1-0 up was the Dutch lead. And then in the end of the second half come out, and I remember we again started off strongly. We weren't getting the shots, and then a great bit of play where Travis Brooks scored a tomahawk goal from the baseline, or close to it, off my pass into Jamie and then onto Travis to equal the score. And then it was 1-1 at the end of regular time. It went into extra time, and I was thinking halfway through the extra time at 1-1, I remember coming off, and I looked at, because we had a supporter with an ambassador, John Eales, was with the team. He was fantastic. He was carrying these eskies, he was supporting the team, and I remember looking up and I was just thinking to myself, is this going to happen again? Is it going to be taken away? And then I started visualising and preparing myself to step up and take a penalty stroke, because if it come to that. But then we went into that golden goal situation and come down to a set play where, as we all know, how Jamie Dwyer scored that winning goal. A lot of people think that was something that we pulled out just for that final, but it's something that we'd practiced and rehearsed over 1,000 times in training to get it right, and it's something you have up your sleeve for that one moment, and to win an Olympic gold medal and to bring it out was amazing. The emotion that we went through that game and the whole journey, for me it was one of relief, exhaustion at the end of the Olympic campaign, but obviously then just the euphoria that went with the success. That's what we'd all planned for. Yeah, well, with no doubt, the success from the Athens Olympics, the gold medal, the Kookaburras and the Australian men's hockey team, the first Olympic gold medal. I think it was, 2004 was 48 years of trying, so that's persistence in itself from a team's point of view, and from an administration point of view, and from an organisation. That's great persistence. But to go there, where the games began in Athens, the traditional setting, opportunity to go to Greece, look around, and I remember 12 months before the games, we'd done a test event in Athens, and a lot of facilities weren't finished, but the opportunity to pick up the atmosphere of Greece and what it had to offer allowed us to do the touristy things. So then when we went back there in 2004, we could be down to business, and away we went. So without a doubt, the Olympic Games in Athens in 2000, having the opportunity to captain the team and to go to the Olympic gold medal was the amazing experience. I had my daughter Kira, who was 8 months old. She was able to go to those Olympic Games, and I've still got fond memories and pictures of the whole family being there, and mum, dad, my wife and mother-in-law all being there. But we had a fantastic support from all families that were on the journey as well. And then that Olympic gold medal was the 16th gold medal for the Australian Olympic team, which was our highest number of medals. And we had all the support of all the other athletes from the village that had finished it. And that was led by Laurie Lawrence. So It was, I remember how the stories that go on behind that just to get into that game. But even the game itself, it had a roller coaster of emotions. Well, without a doubt, you do. From a coaching role, from the way that sporting teams go about anything in life, we always debrief a performance. We'd always learn a lot more and analyse when you do lose a match. When you win, sometimes it camouflages some of the things that you're doing wrong. And Rick Charlesworth, always a firm believer that you learn a lot more from the games that you lose than what you do when you win. So when you win matches, it's even more important that you're, super analytical, and you do everything in critique to the end. Yeah. Well, I guess post-Athens, I always wanted to continue on playing, and did so. Probably my first real injury come around the Beijing Olympics, when I had a stress fracture and missed out on the games in 2008. And that was a setback, but probably it gave me even more hunger to continue on with the Kookaburras, and continued through 2009. Wanted to go to my fourth Commonwealth Games in 2010, but to win that elusive also World Cup, which Australia haven't won the Kookaburras for 20 odd years. So my focus, I guess, as athletes do and Australian athletes do, as soon as you become successful, you're turning for that next thing. And sometimes, and what I've learned from that is, you don't actually really embrace and enjoy the success and celebrate the wins and the good times. We moved on pretty quickly, and continued on for the next 6 years with the Kookaburras, which was an amazing journey. But stepping back now, I still miss the game. I want to play it at the highest level possible. I miss playing with the green and gold, and I still feel like I have a lot to offer to the game. But obviously, times come, and from my point of view, it's not what I can do that can change anything. It's up to the selectors, and they've moved on, and it's an opportunity to blood younger players and get them set for London 2012. So where we are now, the Kookaburras are the benchmark. They've been number one since 2000 through that period, 2009, 2010, 2009 we won the Champions Trophy in Melbourne, World Cup, Commonwealth Games in 2010, Champions Trophy 2011. So we've continued on, and I think they're setting the benchmark, and a fantastic team. I think it's probably would have been one of the hardest sporting teams to gain selection in, because realistically, I think, as we were in 2004, the Kookaburras could have taken 2 teams to the Olympics and done really well. Kookaburras in 2012 could also do the same, and both teams could be on the medal dais. Well, I think from the experience on playing a number of leagues around the world, it's really hard demographically and geographically within Australia that a national league is a difficult one. For a lot of years, we've been toying with ideas and strategies to improve the game here in Australia and the exposure of the game. Throughout Europe, they've got the European Hockey League, which has been successful. You've got all the different national leagues in Europe, so the Dutch League, the German League, the English League, and now more recently World Series Hockey in India. It's important that India now become a superpower in hockey again, because with that we go bigger crowds, bigger support. The business dollar, the corporate dollar is supporting the game, but more importantly, the exposure of the brand in television, in all different internet and media type activities. But here in Australia, what we must do is, it's important you also create wanting players to stay within the game. So it might be prize money, or it might be benefits and different like that. You've got to take that next step from amateur to professionalism, and players will, because the longevity in the game, you can play for 12, 13 years at the top level, 14 years. But at that next level down, our national league needs to be supported, needs to be the main competition. But from the success of that national league, like I said, we've got a lot of players that aren't in that top 16 with the Kookaburras, but another 200 players that are quite equal to any other world player around the world. They could potentially be playing in any league. So having the opportunity to play in the best leagues, having the opportunity to be professional, full-time athletes is where we need to go. And the only thing that's going to do that is television exposure and the sponsorship. We're sort of at the crossroads and ready to take that next step. You know, we've talked about ideas in and around, like playing like they got the UEFA Cup and the Champions League. So a similar event like they're doing with the European Hockey League, the best team from each national league is playing against the other best teams. So here in Australia, through the Oceania, the leagues here in the state, which we're looking at different super leagues with Queensland now in the state championships and the Super League program, to get the best hockey, to want people to go and watch the game, enjoy and capture things that what makes hockey so good. The fact that the family sport, male, female, kids from 5, 6 years old all the way through to 65, 70. The game, the demographics of the game is fantastic. It's a family environment. Let's get people back to watching the game, and if we build that, there's a lot of people that will want to support it, and it becomes professional. But as an organisation, you've got to create the business model, the corporate model that's going to make it sustainable, so that the game can continue to grow. At the moment, we're just shooting. We're not creating a spectacle. We're not creating an event to go to. We're going to watch a hockey match. That's all. We've got to create the event.
Get into the zone! Hockey zone!
Get into the zone, the hockey zone.
Get into the zone! The hockey zone!